Whoa! Thanks very much, Lena. Welcome everyone to our Integrated Skills Christmas webinar. Welcome along. It seems a very short time ago since we were doing the Christmas webinar in 2024, but you're very welcome. We've got some great guests with us today. We've got Jen Sparrow from Bridgend Council. We've got Dan Roberts from RAP, and we've got Victoria Crawford from Victoria Crawford Consulting. And as has become quite a tradition, we've also got Simeon Walker, who's going to be playing some beautiful piano music for us this year to put us in the mood. Really thank you for joining me as guests. I'm looking forward to this very much. An hour of waste management chat, fun, and also some lovely music. There is going to be an opportunity to win some spectacular prizes, I've got to say. There are only 4 prizes, but those prizes are really, really nice. There's a little story that goes along with the prizes. But the way that the prizes will work, and it's very simple, each one of our guests will actually ask their question. As soon as you have the answer to that, you put the answer in the chat box down there. The first person to write the correct answer in the chat box wins the prize. So yeah, I'm looking forward to it very much. I hope you've had a good year and you're looking forward to a bit of a Christmas break. I think it's been probably one of the busiest years we've ever had this year. And we've seemed to have done an awful lot. Just a quick bit of background on Integrated Skills. We do a range of technology, so in-cab technology, route optimization. We've been busy with both of those, trade waste management and jobs management. Again, a busy year where particularly the simpler recycling strategy has actually really had a significant impact on business. Yeah, we've been extremely busy. I think it is the busiest year we've ever had to date. A quick word just about our my particular area of interest is our in-cab, our new in-cab system, which is called Smart Suite. We're interested in transforming the whole conversation around in-cab, making this as easy, as simple to use as possible, but as beneficial to those in the back office who actually are gathering data. We recognise that technology in the cab has got to be a helpful thing and not an additional burden on drivers, and that's what we've been working on. Can I welcome our team for today? Let me just get our team to say hello. Do you want to turn your cameras on, team? Thank you. There's Jen. Hi, Jen.
Hello, good afternoon.
Hi, Victoria. Hiya.
Hi there.
Dan, nice to see you.
Hi, Stuart. Good afternoon, everybody.
And Simeon, nice to see you next to the piano.
Ready to go? Hello. Hi.
Brilliant. I wonder, Simeon, would you mind starting the proceedings this afternoon, putting us in a bit of a Christmassy mood, and play us a piece of music?
Sure. Decided to follow your advice, Stuart, and go with your request rather than play all manner of Jingle Bells or Jingle Bell Rocks or whatever that I have to do on different occasions. I'm going to play O Come, O Come, Emmanuel. Merry Christmas.
Lovely. Thank you.
Welcome.
Great way to start. Thanks, Sim. It was lovely. Just tell us a bit about your year. What's been going on in the world of Simeon Walker and your music?
Well, it's been a very busy year. I can't actually remember how many I've actually done, but I've definitely done around 40 to 50 performances. I think it's close to 50 of my own stuff. So my primary job is as an artist, performing my own music as a pianist, composer, and artist. And yes, that's a real job, which is good to be able to say. And so that takes me all over the place. Started earlier in the year in February in Germany, Belgium, and Netherlands, and then spent the rest of the time touring around the UK. I released a lot of music and do lots of work. So this year I've done actually quite a lot more work as a session musician, doing recording for people. So other composers, other artists sending me things that they want me to record or arrange for them, and doing a bit more bespoke work as well this year. So I do a lot for a company called The Modern House, who are essentially an estate agent, but it's very Instagram and very sort of £5 million flats in the Barbican and stuff like that. And so it's a guilty pleasure for many of us to look at that and dream that we could have them. So so I've done quite a bit of work with them, with their podcast, their new relaunch podcast, Nigel Slater, and all kinds of interesting people on that. And I'm also, you can also hear me playing the music on the new Christmas with Peppa Pig album, which, you gotta take it all.
That is great, Sim. Thank you. We've concocted some prizes. The quiz prize, the quiz starts here, and Sim, I'm hoping that you're going to be able to ask a question that is worthy of this fine bottle of Nadar gin. This is there are some stories about these prizes. The first one here is this is actually a climate positive. It's actually got a negative carbon impact. This bottle of gin. Not quite sure by the time we've posted it to the successful winner where that will turn up, whether the carbon cost, but at least it's making an effort. So I wonder if you would give us your question in a moment, and just a reminder of the rules. The rules are that the first person to type into the chat box the correct answer to Simeon's question will receive by post this bottle of Nadar climate positive gin. So Simeon, it's over to you, really.
All right, thank you very much. I've tried to go a little harder this year, but it's extremely Googleable. So I'm trusting that the waste management crew are going to be good with this. So according to numerous polls, "Fairy Tale of New York" by the Pogues is the most played Christmas song in the UK, and was recently determined by the British Phonographic Institute as having sold enough copies to be certified as 7 times platinum. Despite this success, it's never reached #1 in the UK charts, missing out narrowly on the Christmas #1 slot in 1987, which just happens to be the year of my birth, and the year that it was released in. So the question is, which song and band/artist did it miss out on the 1987 Christmas #1 to?
I like the question. It's very good. Someone is typing, and someone suggested it's Wham! Last Christmas. Could that be? Always on my mind.
Oh, there we go,
boys.
Always on my mind.
Wow! Amanda, you are going to be the recipient of this bottle of Nadar gin. It's going to be on its way to you. Congratulations. Simeon, thank you very much. We're going to hear lots more later, but thanks for now. Really nice. Thank you. What a great start. So let's go back to speak to some of our other guests. Victoria, are you there? Hey,
I'm here.
how are you doing?
Good, thank you.
That was lovely, wasn't it?
It was, yeah, it's wonderful. Really nice way
Yeah,
to start the
yeah.
festive period.
Absolutely. So Victoria Crawford of Victoria Crawford Consulting, tell me how you are and what's been your year.
It's been a bit of a mixed one. So after sort of 19 years in waste management, I decided, and having done various things, mostly consultancy, but I decided to go out on my own and just have a bit more flexibility over my time and what I was doing, because that kind of suits my life situation at the moment. So I spent the summer on holiday pretty much in various places. And then since really RWM, it's kind of gone a bit crazy. So I've been really busy since then, lots of procurement. And I think, just generally in the industry, there's lots of procurement going on, both in terms of just contracts coming up for renewal, but also people getting ready for food waste coming in next year. So it's a busy marketplace, but it's been good.
Yeah, very good. Lots of you will probably know Victoria anyway, but this webinar, the Wider Waste webinar, we're very familiar with your annual review or survey of the progress of the government's waste or recycling strategy, or simpler recycling as we like to call it. I mean, I just wonder what your take is on the position we're at. I mean, I know that we're going to hear from you again. I think we've booked in for March next year, I think, to do a rerun of the latest on the strategy. But what's the top news from your point of view, do you think?
Well, I think now the funding from EPR is starting to flow through, that's going to be interesting to see kind of what changes that makes and what improvements that can drive for local authorities. And I think Dan's going to talk about that a bit more detail later. But I think the other main thing really is the kind of the speed at which people are now frantically preparing for food waste, because I think a lot of them were holding back to see what their budget position was, what the funding was going to look like, what the marketplace was like. So it's meant there's quite a busy period now. And then alongside that, we've got kind of DRS like coming in, and the steps, I suppose, around implementing that, because there's quite a lot of work to do in order to get a scheme live. So I think in the next year, that's going to see a real speed of action happening behind, not necessarily front facing for residents and the public, but all behind the scenes, ramping up, preparing to accept all that material via a different route, essentially. So I think those are the key things from my perspective anyway.
Yeah, interesting. I mean, I can only echo that, authorities are really seriously having to work out what they need to do for food waste, particularly. I mean, I know we've been super busy this year, actually just optimizing for different scenarios based on participation levels, of which we're not that sure yet. And I think, the local authorities are not that sure yet. And I think it will be interesting to see in April what participation looks like. It will probably be high to start with, maybe, and then plateau at a certain point. But it's been a really busy time. Well, congratulations on stepping out and going solo. Victoria Crawford Consulting, we're going to hear a lot more from you, I'm sure. We're certainly on this webinar going to hear from you in March. You've got a quiz question for us. Let me just set up this. There we go. I also want to say a word or two about this, because this is a refill hamper from the refilling station, which is 2 minutes walk from our office. And a little backstory to this was I was involved in organising the Christmas event for CIWM in the Northeast, and we had a speaker there, Gareth Morton from Surety Limited, who has run the flexible plastics project that's been happening with, I think, probably around about eight authorities trialing this across the country, with a lot of households involved, working out what sort of plastics are recycled, how many people will actually get involved, what is the best way of collecting this, and then looking at the best way of processing it. So, the conclusion of the project is this is going to be an awfully complex project to both run, to collect, to process, and then actually to do something with the material. And at the conference, I took the liberty of asking Gareth, from an ordinary householder's point of view, what is the best thing that any individual householder could do to try to tackle the problem of flexible plastic waste? And he said some other things about changing your diet and various things, but actually the thing that jumped out at me was we really need to be looking at using refill shops. So question in my mind is refill shops. Okay, so that's my prompt to this prize. But just to say that I think we're going to be looking at the life of refill shops in more detail next year. Certainly at Integrated Skills, we've got a blog being we're doing a blog for the Larac website in January on refill shops, but I think we'll probably be doing a webinar or two just to sort of think about if this is a solution to the problem of plastics waste, then how effective is it being? So that was a long introduction to your question, but anyway, you're to win this beautiful hamper of refill goods, and we will post it down to you. You just need to give the correct answer to Victoria's question, which is
so I haven't gone down a reuse theme, I've gone down a Christmas theme. So my question is, how many pre-owned Christmas jumpers are for sale on eBay? And I took this number on the 8th of December, so pretty current. And I've got 4 options to choose from. So A, is it 132,500? B, is it 22,458? C, is it 257,120? Or is it D, 8,431?
That's quite a wide range, isn't it? Quite a wide
It
range.
is. Yeah.
Someone's typing, so it could be
Lots of people.
David, someone has actually. Beth has come up with already. No, sorry, we've had some answers already.
We have.
Thomas has gone for answer C.
Yeah, it is. It is C. It's the largest number.
Well, I can't believe it. Thomas Kelly.
Okay.
Thomas
Okay.
Kelly.
Yeah.
The Christmas webinar tradition that Thomas Kelly wins a prize is continuing.
Oh well, good luck. Well done on the.
Thomas,
the
well
hamper.
done on the refill hamper, which is going to be winging its way to you in the next couple of days. Just remind us how many we're talking about, Victoria. What was the answer?
It's like 250,000, 257,000 jumpers. I did try to look at the stats on Vinted, which I think is probably even higher, but they just say 500 plus, so that wasn't very helpful.
No,
but
no.
eBay gives you the exact number.
No.
But it just shows you there's a huge kind of reuse market there for clothes, and I think more people are starting to use secondhand sites and sites like Vinted, but yeah, it was just quite a start.
Yeah, that's
quite a start number.
Absolutely. Yeah, well, thank you for that. That's interesting, and thanks for your update, and we'll look forward to seeing more of you next year, and we will hear from you certainly. Thanks,
Great.
Victoria.
Thank you.
Okay, Dan, are you there? Hi, Dan. How are you?
Afternoon, Stuart. I'm very well. How are you?
Great, really good. Yeah, thank you. Just to let people know that you are the specialist in. Let me just get the waste and recycling. There you are. You are. No, you did say you were quite happy to be called anything, but that sounds like a great title to me. You work at WRAP, and you've been extremely busy this year supporting local authorities. Give us a view of the picture from your point of view at WRAP. What's going on?
Wow, thank you, Stuart. Yeah, I mean, as has been said, 2025 has been incredibly busy. Side of WRAP that I work with, we've been working with providers, consultants, vehicles, containers, regulators, policymakers, local authorities. And I think a webinar such as this, and coming towards Christmas time, you reflect slightly, don't you? And it's just over 12 months ago that we had policy positions set out for simpler recycling on co-collection, the date confirmed for microfirms, and a few other bits of clarification around residual waste. And it feels a lot longer ago that in the last 12 months, the amount of effort from across the sector that's gone in to meeting many of these requirements is, it's a good chance to reflect and almost say well done to everybody, because food waste has been mentioned, but for England, the start of April this year, just under half of local authorities in England didn't have a food waste collection at all. And of course, in 3 months' time, all but 31 will be required to have one. So as Victoria referenced, the procurement, the AD capacity and the sector and all that goes with this. And we've had about 340 million pounds in new burden funding for food waste has gone out so far, with more to follow. So it's been a huge shift in a very short space of time. So food has been a big part of the year. But also I'd say EPR as well, Stuart, from a highlight perspective, that, you know, this was outlined almost 7 years ago to the day in the resources and waste strategy. It's been a long time, and it's a complex thing, but we've got the payments going out now, and £1.4 billion in year one is a significant sum. And I'm quite excited by the fact it feels very much the start for packaging EPR around, it isn't just for me the cost transfer, it's these levers, be it modulated fees for producers, efficient and effective metrics for local authorities to drive the right behaviours. And this is where I'm quite excited for EPR in the future. And you mentioned reuse. I think this is where these levers, the reuse, the refill, the refurb, the replenish, the repair, I think this is where there's potential, real opportunities. So I'm quite excited by where that can go with EPR. But yeah, we've been working across the sector all year at WRAP, and as I say, time sometimes to take a reflection and say it's been a really good year, and everyone has worked really, really hard. And chance for a short break and go again for 26.
Yeah, certainly. I mean, the interesting thing about looking at something like, you know, this small example I used there of the refill situation is there's a massive cultural change required behind all this, isn't there? You know, that all this money has been invested in there, but there's a massive cultural change that we're expecting the public to make. And I think a lot of people have been probably expecting, you know, a big sort of government campaign on the food waste side of things, just to really promote that. Do you know, just, you know, I don't know if you do, but do you know whether there's a program of marketing and advertising planned? Are you expecting that government will come up with that? Or
I mean, in terms of the detail, it not in terms of exactly what will happen and when, I suppose. From an England perspective, yeah, as I mentioned, the 31 authorities with the transition arrangement that won't be required to do food, but we estimate that only affects around 15% of properties. So 85% are required to have this by the end of March. And there are slight differences, but generally it will be separate weekly food waste collection. So more national communications, there's a logic there. I think local authorities also are very, very good at engaging with their residents, with their stakeholders. So yeah, lots of resources on the WRAP website. We also have the recently issued Simpler Recycling communication assets. So I would encourage anyone to go and have a look at that. They're freely available to use. Yeah, but all the information, all the work is there. But yeah, great opportunities for it, Stuart.
Great, thanks, Dan. Really appreciate your efforts this year, and yeah, there is a significant change underway, isn't there?
Yeah, absolutely. I forgot to mention we've had businesses this year, Stuart. Obviously, with Simpler Recycling, we have local authorities really working now, micro firms to come, and as Victoria mentioned, we've got DRS on the horizon too. At this webinar next year, will be, you know, less than 1 year from that. So
yes,
all change.
Yeah, well, look forward to it. Thanks, Dan. That's really good to hear from you. I wonder, Simeon, if you're there, we could have another piece of music. And again, it's a request, and I wondered if you could play one of my favourites, which is Drift. It just makes me think of snow rather than. I mean, I suppose it could be meandering on a boat along the coast or whatever. But for me, it just speaks of snow. So I don't know when you were writing it, what was in your mind?
No, that's exactly right, and I don't think you've been primed to say that either. So well done. It was something I wrote in 2016, and I've been looking back over this quite recently, actually, because it's coming up to almost 10 years since that first album of mine came out, and yeah, it was a particularly snowy day in early November, actually, 2016. And we live in West Leeds, and we got very high up and got blanketed, and it was just an amazing day. So yeah, I was sitting here looking out the window, snow flurrying down, kind of blizzardy. So yeah, that's kind of the idea of this.
Brilliant. Look forward to it. Thanks. the wax down those sledge runners.
Thank you.
Lovely. Really nice. Beautiful. Dan, I think it's time for your question, if you're still there. Thank you, Dan. Do you want to give us your question? And again, just to go through the rules, I think everyone's got the basics now, but Dan will ask his question. First person to give the correct answer will win. And what will they win? They will win not just any Christmas pudding, but I was born in York, and York is a pretty of a special place for me. If you go into the centre of York, not that far away from Stonegate and the Shambles, right in the centre, you will often see long queues of people queuing to get into Betty's Cafe, which is the famous cafe in York. Beautiful food, and this prize is a large Christmas pudding from Betty's. So, Dan, for the Christmas pudding, would you like to give us your question, please?
Yeah, absolutely, Stuart. I can't take any credit for this. This is courtesy of my 9-year-old daughter. So, okay, answers in chat, please. What travels the world but always stays in the corner? What travels the world but always stays in the corner? It's a very quick response there.
It was a quick response.
Yeah.
Yes, and it's Steph.
See if there's
Congratulations, Steph.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay.
Well done.
Very good. There you go. That Christmas pudding is on its way. Hope you enjoy it. Right. It's time to introduce Jen. Thanks very much, Dan. Jen. Hiya.
Hello.
Nice to see you. Thanks so much for joining us. I'm really looking forward to hearing from you, but just a little bit of a background. Let's just set the scene here. That about 18 months ago, something like that, I was involved in a webinar, a CIWM webinar. We're talking about the Wales takeover, and it was how Wales were taking over the world. And on the call, we're really pleased to hear that actually, I think it was the day previously, Wales had been awarded the second highest recycling nation in the world, which was absolutely brilliant. And then if we just go down a level, and not go down a level, but fill in the detail on that, amongst the highest performing authorities and the very highest performing authority was Bridgend, with 73% recycling. Jen, just to put this in context, I've been doing waste and recycling for many years, and I remember seriously having conversations with colleagues and people from other authorities, and we were all sort of looking at our recycling performances. I think I was at 3.2% recycling at the time, and one of the neighbouring authorities had got as far as 5%, and we thought, no, surely that can't be possible. And we thought, just like those old stories about people thinking, is it possible for the human body to travel any faster than 20 miles an hour in a car? It was that same sort of thing, is it really possible to get anywhere past 12% or whatever? But anyway, the reality is it's easily possible, and you've shown just how to do it. And, and I'm sure your trajectory is to go higher, and I'll ask you about that later. But perhaps you could just tell us a little bit about Bridgend Council, its recycling performance, how you've done it, and what you've done.
Yeah, of course. So we have around 66,000 properties in Bridgend. We're probably, I'd say, around the middle of size of authorities in Wales, mix of rural and kind of towns. So in 2017, we introduced a curbside separated recycling materials. So we have different containers for paper, card, glass, food, obviously a big one. And then we also have a limit on the amount of residual waste the residents can present. So we offer a fortnightly refuse service and a weekly recycling service, including food. And every fortnight, a household can put out 2 60-litre sacks, and we do enforce that quite harshly. So if a crew attends a property and they've got more than 2 bags out, then we would stick at any additional sacks and leave them. And then we have a very small education and enforcement team who will follow that up then, and visit a property and, you know, try and work with the residents. So we actually haven't issued an FPN for waste offences in Bridgend since probably about 2018. So we do find that conversation and working with residents really does work. Sometimes they're unsure how to use the service. They may have, one of their containers may have got lost or damaged, or they may just need an extra one. So it may just be that they're producing a lot of waste and haven't got room in the recycling containers they have. So we will try and work with them. And then we find that sort of it's been, you know, since 2017, so our residents are used to the service that we provide now. When we started so the end of 2017-18, our recycling rate was 52%. So between then and now, you know, we've gone up 20%. So, and I personally think the reason for that is we've got that restriction on residual, and also the residual is bags, not a bin. Because I think where you have a bin, residents can fit more recycling in, even if they've got the containers. So you may come to a refuse week, and if you've got a bin, sometimes it's that mindset, oh, it's easy just to put in the bin.
Could I just go back, Jan? Just go back. Did I hear you correctly saying 260-litre sacks?
Yeah.
A fortnight?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Wow. That's 60 litres of residual waste every week. That's what you're limiting residents to, but then that's driving them to use the recycling services.
Because they don't, and because we enforce in the term in that we wouldn't take anymore. Now they can take it to one of our recycling sites or CRCs or HWRC, and we will take it there. But even at those sites now, we're asking residents what's in the bag. You know, we wouldn't let a resident dispose of a sack full of cans and plastic. We would ask them to separate it out. So that's the next where we could do more. And we are looking at that with our staff on the sites. But yeah, I think when I was in Bridgend when that change came in, so we went from unlimited residual and unlimited recycling service to a separate curbside collection for recycling. And at the time we had a larger enforcement education team that were working with residents, because that was a big change then. But yeah, I think our residents are used to, so we don't have a huge issue with more bags presented than the tour. We do have dispensation, so if you've got like a particularly large family, then we would allow another bag, but that is assessed, so that's not a given.
How can I ask you about this is the strong message. I've been kind of following the success of Wales for a few years now, and mentioning it on these webinars series, and the whole idea about limiting residual. One of the key issues that's come up is the fact that absorbent hygiene products are difficult to deal with. Do you offer any services to collect those separately?
Yeah, so we collect AHP separately on a fortnightly service. So it's the same. It'd be the same week as your refuse, but we have a different colour bag. So we have like a black bag for refuse and a purple sack then that we provide to residents. So we don't provide sacks for refuse anymore. We used to. So we just say 2 sacks of around 60 litre, but we will give a roll of the purple AHP sacks to anyone who registers for the service, but that is an opt-in service. We've currently got around 7,000 subscribers to that.
But that's a free service?
Free, yeah, free.
And what do people do who don't use the service? They go to the recycling centres?
Well, we do publicise the service quite well, and we do, and what we'll say is we collect every fortnight, and if you don't put out for a consecutive number of collections, we would take you off the service, because there's a charge obviously for us from our contractor for providing that service. But yeah, we don't, and that's where the education enforcement team work as well. So if they go to a property that is presenting, say, 3 or 4 bags, we may then discover that it's because they've got a lot of AHP, they've got a few young children, so we will then refer them then and say, well, you can have this service. So you still maybe would be putting out 4, but 2 of them would be the AHP, which we do send, and we do get a recycling percentage from that as well. So that's also contributing then to our performance.
Yeah, that was one of the exciting things a couple of years ago when I went to the CIWM Wales event, and for me it was a kind of one of those days. It was a bit like a health spa for waste professionals. There's lots of discussion. I'm sure all the people on the webinar are familiar with this kind of, you know, this is what we're going to do, this is what's going to happen when, and it felt to me like it was a day of, this is what we've done, and this is how we're developing this market for this material. This is, and it was so exciting to think, you know, we've been talking about stuff for years and years, but actually there was some evidence of this actually happening. And one of the examples there was the nappy recycling scheme, Nappy Cycle, and
Yeah.
you know, building motorways out of nappies. You think, okay, that's a really clever, innovative idea. And is that the kind of thing you're participating in with your nappies?
Yeah, so
AHPs?
we use that facility, yeah.
Yeah. Brilliant. I'm going to bring in Victoria and Dan here in a second, if you want to come back in and ask if you've got any questions. But I wanted to ask just about your participation rates. What do you think are your participation rates across different elements of the service? I would imagine they're fairly high.
We don't actually monitor participation in a formal way. So if we will liaise with our contractor and say, like, we can look at obviously tonnage collected and that type of thing and use that, but we don't use our, because we're such a small team, we don't use our officers. So in other local authorities I've worked, we've done quite a lot of that. We don't do that in Bridgend, but I think we're kind of forcing people to participate in a way because we're so constricted with how much residual they can present. But if we know we've got a particularly sort of low tonnage round, we'll try and target that with comms. So we've done some targeted, like, social media adverts and things, in particular on like food waste. That's quite a big one for us. And like aerosols and aluminium and steel and things like that. So we can target certain areas where we think we're having maybe not as much tonnage coming through as we would expect, but we do, our tonnages are quite high as well. So we don't monitor participation as such, but we can target areas then with the team that we've got.
Yeah, interesting. Please jump in with any questions, Dan or Victoria, for Jen, if you've got anything.
I've got one or two, but Victoria, if you want to go first. Thank you. Jen, I mean, you're almost at 73% in Bridgend, which is fantastic. And similar to you, Stuart, I remember targets of 25% in the early 2000s and conversations of, well, that's just not achievable and it's not going to be achieved. And Jen, you're proof of exactly what can be. I suppose, what advice would you give to local authorities on how you take your residents with you on the journey? What top tips would you give, please?
I think making it as simple as you can. So obviously I was in another authority, another Welsh local authority, when we introduced what we've got in Bridgend a year or so after Bridgend. And I think it's that initial sort of, why are you giving me all these containers? Where am I going to keep them all? But I think it's having that, trying to have that sort of conversation and bring them on board. And, we did a lot of events in a previous authority I worked in. We did a lot of social media stuff. We did quite a lot of just sort of door knocking and letter drops, just to kind of try and educate people as to why we were doing it. But yeah, I think it's so normal for us now. It's difficult to think back and think what issues did we have at the time, because we did have complaints, and we did have, the residents of, why can't I just put it all in one bin? Why can't I just put the sacks out like I used to? And there is also that element of, we are doing your work for you as a local authority, because you get loads of money for all the waste. I don't think, they don't understand. So we did a lot of things like frequently asked questions as well. So our call centres could use them to, because you get the same stuff all the time. A lot around, we're kind of, as residents, doing the work for you. So I think maybe, when you're looking at the comms, letting people know sort of how much it costs to deal with this stuff as well. So, if you, it's not just that we should do it because it's the right thing to do, it's also the cost saving. So our residual, it costs a lot more to deal with our residual waste than some, we get income for quite a lot of the recycling. So it's kind of, communicating now, would you rather recycle and help save the authority money, or would you want to see cuts in other areas?
Interesting. Victoria, I'm going to come to you in a second with a question for your question, but I've got a couple of questions on the chat. Mark Moen wants to know, Jen, you've got any issues or had any issues with manual handling, going back to sacks?
We do. So we will get some residents who will put out sort of like a wheelie bin size sack, and we will not take that. So if we say only recently we've stopped providing sacks for residents, and that was purely a cost saving for the authority. So where a resident presents a very heavy sack or a very large sack, we will lock it out. So the crew will sticker it, and then so the resident understands the sack was too big or the sack was too heavy. We wouldn't take those, we would leave them there on curbside.
Okay. Can I ask a question from Beth Baxter? What about contamination of recycling? Is what the contamination levels?
So the contamination that we tend to get is plastic film at the moment, because we do not take that. Now, some authorities in Wales will take the plastic film and sort it at a facility. The facility, our transfer station is very small, and we are looking at alternatives because we will need a larger transfer station in the future. But because we are so constrained with space, we will lock that out. So if the crew see plastic bags or crisp wrappers, they will leave it, and they'll sticker it. And they leave it there for the residents. So, and then we may have a follow-up then with our education enforcement team. We don't have massive issues with it. The other issue that we have had is around aerosols and like gas canisters. We sometimes get that in with our cans and plastics, which is a safety issue then, because we have had a few fires at like when that goes through the baler at our site. So we do quite specific comms on that. And we found that there was a particular round on a particular day that we seemed to be having these repeat issues with these. It was like a Tuesday, and it was the first steel bale, so we knew it was from a particular round. So we did a targeted engagement there then, in terms of door knocking, leaflet drop, and I think we did some targeted social media there as well.
Great, thank you. Victoria, have you got a question for Jen?
Oh, it's quite tricky now because you've gone into quite a lot of detail about what you've done. But this might be a bit of a tricky one, because you were just saying there, like, you've, it's difficult to remember all the steps you've taken. But was there anything that you've done that in hindsight you'd have done differently if you'd done it again? Is there anything that, like, comms-wise, or anything that didn't land particularly well that other authorities might be able to learn from?
I think we find in Bridgend that whatever messages we put out, we do get a lot of criticism in waste because I think residents don't see a lot of the services that their council tax goes to fund. But they know they should get their rubbish and their recycling picked up. So even when we put comms out to say we were the best in Wales and we're performing really well and a thank you to residents, we got a lot of criticism for, well, what about the litter? Or, well, we haven't got enough litter bins. So I don't think local authorities can win, really.
Yeah.
But no, I think for me it's making sure they understand why you're doing it, and making it as simple and giving them the tools they need. So making it easy for them to get containers. In another authority that I worked for previously, we didn't provide the liners for the food caddies, and that was a real barrier for people because they didn't feel they should buy their own, and they didn't want to put the food waste straight into the caddy or into the food bin. And then switching that in a different authority to providing those bags for them, that made a massive difference. I think it's making it as easy as possible.
I've got a question, Jen, from David Dorr. Are you getting many nitrous oxide canisters?
No, not in curbside. We do get like litter. As litter, we see them because that's how I manage the cleansing team as well. But we don't really have that issue on a massive scale in our recycling collections.
My final question is in the chat. The discussion going on is that there are many authorities in Wales just thinking about how they get to 80% now. Is that something you've got any ideas on? What would the next step be for you to get to something like 80% recycling? Is it possible?
I think so we're collecting most materials. There's a question there about garden waste. Do we collect garden waste? Yes, we do, but we do charge for that. So we charge for bulky waste collections and we charge for garden waste. The garden waste is a subscribed service. It's around £50 a year, and we collect from March to November. We've got nearly 8,000 subscribers to that. It's a kind of service that if a resident subscribes 1 year, they continue to subscribe because it's easier than them to take it to one of our sites or pay privately for it to be taken. I think we could do more and extend that. I know maybe like the cost is an issue for some, so I think that's an area we could get more. We could definitely get more. Obviously, the soft plastic coming in 27 will have a big impact for us operationally, but it's a voluminous material, but there is a weight to it given the amount we think we're going to get. So I think that will have a big impact. And then further, further sort of reducing the residual frequency or capacity that we allow, I think that would have a big impact. Around, I think it's around half of the waste in our residual sacks could still be recycled.
Really? Gosh, that's a lot, isn't it? Wow. I mean, that sort of then begs the question about what the residual, if you like, what the rest of the material is, what it looks like, and having had some conversations with other authorities in Wales, you know, the challenge really is from the authorities is kind of a frustration with manufacturers that says actually we're now in a position where we're concerned about the materials you make products of cannot be recycled. Therefore, we can't meet our, you know, recycling targets that we want to meet. Is that something you've had any conversations with other authorities on?
I think EPR will help with that. So obviously that's, you know, when that's in now. So I mean, it's different for us in Wales than it is for English local authorities because we all have food waste collection. So I know a lot of English authorities are using that funding for the food waste. But for us, it's looking at what else can we do. And I think the plastic film is a big one, and then further reducing the residual allowance that we allow people to present, because you know that if once the film comes on board. If people are taking part in all the other materials that we offer, there isn't a huge amount left.
Interesting. Kind of final question. It's been great having you, and thanks very much for being so open about what you've been doing in Bridgend. But the final question is, why are you number one, and what differentiates you from the other authorities that you know of? What's the difference in Bridgend?
I think the residual being in sacks is a big one. So if you look at the top performing, I think they all offer a sack collection of you know, we've got one or two monthly residual collections. We've got quite a few now. We've gone to 3 weekly, we're fortnightly. But if you look at how they collecting the residual in bags, I think that's a big thing. I think it's quite easy to get containers and things like that. So we have like an online portal where residents can log on and put their address in and just tick what they need basically, and then that'll get delivered to them within a week or so. So that, I think that makes it quite easy. Yeah, and I think was just that the locking out of the residual and that continuous sort of education with residents.
It's more a comment than anything else, but I do recall having discussions with colleagues and other Welsh authorities, and the conclusion that I've found from all the work that you've been doing across Wales is actually, yeah, there have been very, very cleverly built stages. So through strategy, through policy, through incentivization, funding, through targets and all those kind of things. But ultimately, I think they concluded this has been achieved through many, many, many very difficult conversations. So, it's never easy. And you were saying that you get a lot of criticism. And I think to change public opinion and change the way that the public behave is always going to be a very difficult exercise, isn't it? So, I mean, yeah, congratulations for doing so well and getting where you've got, and long may it continue. And you get to 80% very, very quickly. But thank you. Thanks very much, Jen. You have one more thing to do. Well, no, you've got a couple of things, but the one thing right now is to ask your quiz question, which just to give people a clue. Well, it's not a clue, actually. It's no clue whatsoever, but the prize is, this is Simeon's latest CD, which is also available as a vinyl if you'd prefer to have the vinyl copy of it. This is Simeon's latest CD vinyl of his album Fragments. And so, Jen, what's your question, please?
Okay, so Bridgend is a high performing authority with a recycling rate of nearly 73% for 23-24. Bearing that in mind, how much of Bridgend's residual waste is still food waste? So how much of our residual sack contains food waste, and as a percentage?
Does it have to be exact, or could it be within a few percent?
Within a few percent.
We've already got some answers. We've got 40%, 6.5. Oh, looks very random. 40, 6.5, 50, 2.3, 35, 15, 3, 33, 12. Any of those anywhere
So
near?
shall I pick a closest? So the answer
go on.
is 19.
19%, really.
So I would say
Who's
we've
got
got
the
a
nearest
I think
here?
we've got a 15 there.
We have got a 15. Sarah. We've got, yes, it looks like Sarah is the winner. Congratulations, Sarah. Thanks very much for the question, Jen.
No worries.
Sim, I wondered if you would join us and just play us a final piece of music to send us away.
Of course.
Thank you. We're not quite finished yet. We're going to have a little look at 2026, but it's kind of your last piece of the day, so thank you.
Sure. I'll be posting out that CD with your details soon. And this is a brand new piece of mine which came out about a month ago. It's a classic waltz, really, or in homage to a waltz.
Okay. Thanks for joining us. Thanks for the music today.
Thank you.
Bring everyone back together. Can we all just all the guests? I just wanted to ask a couple of questions. We've got a few minutes left, 3 minutes left, really, to talk about 2026. I'll start off. I've got a my new grandson is being born in Italy in March, which I'm very looking forward to very much. From a work point of view, I'm actually very interested in looking forward to putting together a webinar, which is called something like "Technology is Amazing, but People Are the Really Important Consideration." So, thinking about how we can support people in the workplace within the waste management industry. Yeah. Anyone else want to volunteer their thoughts for 2026?
I think for me, EPR and that continued funding will be a massive thing for us, for us to look at what else we can do. So we've got, we're looking at reuse shops, the plastic film, and trying to get as much as possible out of the residual waste.
Great. Yeah, very good. Anyone else? Dan, Sim, Victoria.
I think for me, Stuart, there's such big changes on the horizon. In terms of what we collect, the materials, how we collect it in the form of the co-collection, written assessments, the evidence we're going to need for digital waste tracking, who collects it. We've got reforms to carriers, brokers, dealers, where it goes. Jen's mentioned AHP. We've got food waste AD. There's just so much change going on. It's a lot of things that we've all been wanting for a long time. So really exciting time. And as I say, the opportunities for reuse. Yeah, let's keep going. Let's build on this momentum. But I think 2026 is going to be as busy as 2025. So let's all enjoy a break before we get there.
Yeah, exactly. That's good. I like it. Victoria.
Well, I think Dan's covered a lot of bases there. I think one thing I'd like to see, probably not 2026, but beyond that, is something around making there some sort of enforcement or incentivization or something for businesses to take part in simpler recycling, because I think there's still quite a lack of awareness from certain companies, and also, you know, the ones providing a commercial service to collect that waste, unless you're a local authority, chances are you're not doing but much by way of, you know, enforcing your own customers. So that's the difficulty, is there isn't any kind of underlying you know, mechanism to encourage businesses to take part. And I think a lot of them still don't know what their responsibilities are. So I think I'd quite like to see a bit of a focus on that, and hopefully that'll come out of the wider messaging around EPR and things like that, and sort of owning that responsibility for your own waste generation.
Yes.
So yeah,
very
I
good.
think that's
Very
it for
good.
me.
I like it. Thank you. Sim, what's 2026 looking like for you? Where will you be?
Basically everywhere. So my mission a few years ago after the pandemic was to have performed in at least every English county and then each constituent member of the UK. I haven't managed Northern Ireland yet, and I'm still not quite there with Herefordshire and of course Rutland, but I'm getting there. So yeah, I'm going to be very busy. The first thing I do in the new year is I'm off to the Isle of Mull, where I'm going to be playing 6 concerts over the weekend in people's homes, which is part of an initiative that the Arts Centre there do each winter to try and keep them connected to what's going on when it's very remote. And then I'll be up and down. I'm going to Penzance, Aberdeen, and pretty much everywhere in between. And I always find it quite interesting being an invited observer to these webinars, because there's, on the face of it, there's often doesn't seem to be very many crossovers between the industry that I'm part of and the waste management industry. And it's always interesting having a conversation with you, Stuart, and about things and about how different aspects around what I guess you guys are trying to do in terms of sustainability and bigger topics overall, which are very important within the music industry, but are sometimes quite sidelined. There's a big conversation going on about sustainable careers even within music, let alone kind of a lot of people within the industry who are trying their hardest to try and encourage people to be more aware and more appreciative of climate issues and responsible touring and things like that. So it's difficult, particularly in this country. It's much easier to go around by train in Europe, whereas here you can't rely on it and it's too expensive because there are no margins. So we're trying to kind of, within the wider music industry as well, trying to keep that kind of conversation moving as well. But yeah,
good.
You're very welcome.
Thanks,
to
Sim.
Well, see me wherever I am.
Fantastic. Look forward to that. And at least we know that Sarah is going to be listening with great delight to your CD or vinyl, whichever she prefers. Guys, we've reached the end of the hour. It's flown by. I've really enjoyed myself. I hope it's not been too onerous for you as guests, and I hope as attendees you've got something out of it. I really want to say thank you very much to Jen Sparrow from Bridgend, Dan Roberts from RAP, Victoria Crawford from Victoria Crawford Consulting, and Simeon Walker from Leeds. Really appreciate your company, and have a great Christmas and break, everyone. Hope you come back to work rejuvenated and revitalized in January. I think that's all from us, and we'll see you again soon. Thank you. Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thanks,
you,
everyone.
Stuart. Bye all.
Bye.
Bye.